Peace that surpasses all understanding. How's everybody doing? I'll tell you what, man, energies have been brutal. Brutal. Just brutal. I straight up, earlier today had an anxiety attack. Like, straight up anxiety attack. When I got sober, I used to get anxiety attacks all the time. You know, and it's that feeling of like you think you're going to have a heart attack. Or you've had a little bit too much of that. Not that I would know. But picked up on something today. I was out driving around doing my errands. It's not the first time I've noticed it. And in recent days, I've been doing a lot of driving, highway driving, motorway driving, and they've clearly done a lot of road work. And what I've noticed, now I'm not drawing on this from speculation. When I was in construction and heavy equipment, excavation and paving, and I mean, you name it, there are very specific widths. You have to follow code. A primary road, a secondary road, they have to be a certain width for that type of traffic. And I've been on the highway a lot. And what I'm noticing, and I paid attention, I was looking. So in Maine, we have the rumble strip on the side of the road, on the side of the highway, so you know if you're drifting. And long story short, all the roads, now this is interesting because it goes from Maine into New Hampshire and onward and upward, up into Maine, down into New Hampshire. Now, what I'm noticing is the lanes are shrinking in width. Now, let's just say, I can't remember the exact widths. So, like a tractor trailer, a cargo truck, I believe that's somewhere in the proximity of 9 feet wide. Something along those lines. 8 and some change, 9 feet, something like that, right? And I was paying attention, and I've noticed it because we all drift as we're driving. We drift in between our lines, correct? A little bit. Doesn't mean we're swerving into other people's lanes, but you drift. There's a margin of tolerance on either side of you, especially on a highway, on a motorway. And with all this new construction, what I picked up on was the proximity of the rumble strip on the shoulder. The breakdown lane is in the same exact spot as it ever was. It hasn't been repaved. They only went to a certain line. And now, if anybody has ever paid attention, the white line on the side of the road is immediately adjacent to the rumble strip. Okay? And what I'm seeing from Maine to New Hampshire is that rumble strip is now, I'm going to say between a foot and 2 feet away from the solid white line. And there's, let's just say on highway traffic, there's 3 lanes. Those 3 lanes, and I've noticed it, passing cars passing me, especially tractor trailers and large vehicles, it is fucking tight, you guys. It's tight. And I know how the paving machines work. I've operated them, and there's a width control. They can go up to like 20 feet wide, or whatever it is, 15 feet wide, something ridiculous. And you adjust how wide it goes. So when they're spreading the asphalt, there's a truck in the front dumping it into the machine. The machine's laying it down at a particular width and depth. And then there's a steamroller behind it, tamping it down. And I'm telling you guys, why does this matter, right? Why would I pick up on such a inane thing, right? Well, first, because I was experiencing it. I'm like, damn, these lanes are tight, dude. These lanes are tight. And, but this particular section of road or area of road where I live is about an hour and 15 minutes commuting distance from Boston. So a lot of people commute. It's heavy traffic during the rush hour. Now, I have a theory. We've got people, I was watching a program where the things that the government does or your state or town municipality does to either empower you, make you feel or sense that you have power and control, or to establish a law and a rule, and signs everywhere, signs, shit like that. For example, a street light, a crosswalk, and that button you push to make the light change, those don't work. It's a psych to make you think that you have some control. I was watching an entire program on this stuff, and it's insane, you guys. So you've got all this traffic commuting from Boston back into Maine. You've got a tense population of people, especially over the past couple of years. People are already tense. And when we're tense, we make stupid choices. We make poor choices. We're not thinking clear when we're stressed out, correct? So how do they stress us out a bit more? They subtract. Now, I would love to go up there with my tape measure. I would, man. I would love to go up there with my tape measure. But I'd probably get run over by a car. But I'm not kidding. So if you think about the last time you were on a main motorway and you were following, let's say, a tractor trailer, a big vehicle, how much space did that vehicle have on either side? And on average, my memory says on either side, it was somewhere between 1.5 and 2 feet on either side. So he can drift a little bit. There's a margin of tolerance there. But I'm telling you guys, I've noticed it. And I'm not the only one. I talked to my sister, and she's like, yeah, what's up with that? And oh, by the way, what's up with the street lights? And I was like, yeah, what is up with the street lights? Because what I'm referring to is noticeably. And, and I follow generally the same routes that I travel, whatever. I follow the same routes, so I'm familiar with the times and, whatever, and right turn on red, all this other shit. And what she noticed, is that green lights to go are dramatically shorter and red lights are dramatically longer. How is that possible, right? And I was paying attention, and I'm like, why is it, this light never takes this long, ever, or when the green light goes, you're lucky if you can get 2 cars through it. And I'm not talking about one particular stoplight, numerous. It stresses you out when you're waiting, right? Or when you feel like you're driving at high speeds on a motorway and you feel confined in your lane. that you can't drift. Just an observation. The rambles of a madman. Oh boy. The other thing too, speaking of a madman, um, or crazy, I mentioned that I told a friend yesterday that I felt crazy. The energies. So I attribute. I'm sorry. Going back to what I had just said, that anxiety attack that I had was a direct result of my commute today, of driving around on the turnpike, on the motorway, 70, 80 miles an hour. So I chalked that up. That's over. But I spoke with a friend yesterday, and the energies have been like brutal, just brutal. And not only the energies when I'm alone at home, but the energies when I'm interacting with people. Um, I wow, man, you know, and feeling as though I have to set boundaries and stand up for myself and clarify. And it's like the lights are on, but nobody's home, and it's really troubling me. Um, there's that. I mean, complete preoccupation with whatever. I mean, just things like the simple nod or gesture as you're walking in or out of a store. You know, these simple, basic, common courtesies that perhaps we have all at some point taken for granted. It's like the lights are on, but nobody's home, and it's challenging energy to walk through, especially when I feel I don't want to label myself something, but I can generally feel what somebody's thinking and feeling at any given point. It might take a minute or two at times, but generally it's just like a collective anxiety, a collective depression, a collective, just everybody's walking around instead of um, in their toroid, they're walking around in a constricted little bubble where it's mind boggling, and it's harsh energy. That's tangible. Okay, that's tangible. We can see and witness. If we have even just that much empathy, we can witness that tangibly in ourselves and others, much the same way I recognized my own anxiety earlier today. However, I mentioned in my last video being a weird kid, and you know, I'm standing by that, you know. But what did I mean when I said I was a weird kid? Um, I had what my family, what my mother and my father and brothers and sisters described as, oh, those are Scott's imaginary friends. And we all have an idea of imagination and memory, okay? We can make a differentiation between what is my imagination and what is an actual tangible physical memory. Um, and when I look back on my experiences with my quote unquote imaginary friends, um, or as it was labeled to, in regards to me, those were tangible, albeit ethereal things that no one else could see, but I could see. And what it was too, from a perspective sense, they were these two bright, shining, golden orbs. Roughly this, a perceptively the size of a grapefruit that I used to talk with them, and they would talk back or communicate. It was telepathic. Now that was one incident, and I had also mentioned in that previous video um, that I was by the people that were surrounding me that I was considered to be socially maladjusted, that I was a bit left of center, and I also mentioned that I was taken out of public school and put into a special school. It wasn't a private school, but it was a special school for people with special needs. And I do recall that one of the diagnoses that they threw at me was auditory and visual hallucinations. Now, I can understand from a third party's point of view when I described my imaginary friends. Um, they were named not by me, but it was Mac and Joe. Mac and Joe. Oh, Mac and Joe are Scott's imaginary friends. There was two of them, uh, M and J, and I've come to some understanding as a kid. You know, when I went into my closet, I mentioned that in my prior video. When I went into my closet, I was in there meditating. I didn't know at the time, as a child, with a child's um, comprehension, I didn't know that I was meditating, but that's what I was doing. I was meditating in a dark closet, sensory deprivation. I've mentioned these things before, but and there was numerous other things that I experienced as a kid, and I genuinely believe that as a child we are much more open to, shall we say, unseen things that are often um, misunderstood as imaginary friends, or it's in our imagination. But look back, as for your own self, look back over the course of your life where you were using your imagination, or it was an actual memory. you know did that actually happen, or was I doing something from a point of my own imagination? And as I look back over the course of my life, that was a memory. It wasn't something. I have memories of those interactions, but and we in play we used myself and with those two golden orbs. um, we used our imagination to play, um, be silly, romp. They were also very protective of me. Um, the place where I lived, my environment, my circumstances were frequently violent, or invasive, and they're these golden orbs were like for what I would describe as um, higher selves, soul family, fractals of myself or others or people that I've been on the journey with, maybe perhaps shared past life experiences with. Um, yeah, wow, yeah, going from that experience with sharing the story about the road and now to this, quite a segue into something completely different. There was one other experience. Um, there was one other experience I had as a kid, and that was tangible. And I don't know what the I'm not familiar with all and I don't mean any disrespect, but all the new age terminology. And I think I can't remember the closest thing I remember hearing. I was walking home from the store, and again, my hopping, skipping, running down the road, being a goofy kid, whatever I was doing. And I remember there was a jolt. I had a jolt, um, and I remember feeling like something dropped in, not you know, it, I I remember at that moment it was like, what was that? What was that? Like, why did I, but it felt like much in the same way, my experience that I had, that I referred to, or people have said it sounds like it might have been a Kundalini awakening. Um, it wasn't that powerful as far as like, wow, but it definitely felt like something entered me. And I remember looking at my body. I like stopped dead on the street, on the side street that I was walking home on. And I just stopped dead and I started like examining my body. Like I didn't feel, I no longer felt like I was part of my body. I was in my body, but I had no identification that this was my body. I felt much like I was simply a driver in a vehicle. It was um, a very odd situation. Um, and even as I took my steps, I started moving again. Every step felt clumsy and awkward, like what was driving my body was it was like riding a bicycle. Very odd sensation. Um, in I don't know. There's been a lot of really truly bizarre experiences that I've had that were, a doctor would say, oh, he's auditory and visual hallucinations, or he's psychotic, or et cetera, et cetera. And I think of all these kids who are dosed on meds, dosed on meds, dosed on meds, and for one reason or another. And I'm looking back, we didn't have medication at that time, but how many of these experiences that we, over the course of our life, whether it be in childhood or adulthood, how many of these experiences that we've had were genuine experiences, genuine, tangible experiences, but for fear of ridicule or being chastised for being crazy, we kept those things secret to ourselves. And I'm here to tell you, if sometimes, I had that conversation with my friend yesterday about feeling crazy, and I alluded to some of the reasons why, but I was pretty vague. I was still holding it close to the chest. But there's those things in our lives that we can't quite explain. We look back over, was that a memory or was that an experience? Was that my imagination? If I say something about this, people are going to think I'm crazy. The fear comes in real quick. I mean, honestly, you guys too, I have seen some freaky shit in the skies, man. Not recently, but within the past 2 years, I have seen some amazing stuff that has no business being in the sky. UFOs. UFOs. There you go. I said it. I have seen UFOs, otherworldly things, and it wasn't always a craft, it was a light, and what I would refer to as these lights. And again, I know there's people out there that have debunked them already, and what they said about these lights were either holograms or, the swamp gases, swamp gases, or the aurora borealis. I'm telling, and there's other people in my real world, in my physical proximity, who saw these things. Some of these things, some of these things, and I'm not discounting or promoting, mental health, whatever, but they're, when you see something with your own eyes or you experience something in your own body, and you're so quickly dismissed. um, Again, going back to that situation where when I was a kid, auditory and visual hallucinations. um, Part, and again, another part was the straw that broke the camel's back, when they put me in the special school for kids with special needs. Um, One of the things, and I found this out later, I didn't realize, but Star Wars. I had this idea about Star Wars and a spaceship, you know, and I had a trigger, and they were shooting, and we're familiar with Star Wars and Han Solo and Millennium Falcon, and they're shooting at the TIE fighters, whatever, and they're exploding. And I'm like, and when I was a kid, I was like, that's not what happened. That's not, and I was like, that's not what happens. It has to do with sound and vibration, and it doesn't have to do with destroying a craft. It has to do with disabling it. And they're looking at me like, what the fuck is he talking about? And I was so convinced about this. I was like, oh my God. It was a huge trigger for me as a kid. Having perhaps what one would call is a memory or a trigger of a past lifetime. And, when I got into that special school, I remember that the primary teacher that I had, she couldn't understand why I was there because I was a straight A student. And and she looked at me and, like, yeah, you might have some emotional problems based on your home life. But, like, why are you here? You don't have any problems learning. As a matter of fact, you're a straight A student, and I see great things for you. Um, but and that was validation to me at that time in my life, at that age of my life, that maybe I wasn't crazy after being told all these things and seeing the fear and the worry and the concern, and that there's something wrong with Scott, and the conversations that I had overheard, when my parents or my family was talking about me, and the concerns they had for me. I guess what I'm saying is, don't go through your whole life being afraid. Claim your truth, claim your truth. Um, and most people think I'm weird anyway, so I got nothing to lose, you know. Speak your truth. I'm gonna leave my email in the description box, and if you care to share, it'll be in confidence. I'm not gonna blab it around but if you've had experience and you care to share them, I'm interested. I'm interested. I've had a lot. I've had a lot, and I've only mentioned a couple here in this share. Things that you are just unexplainable, and were dismissed as crazy or mental problems, or they put us on medication, or they put us in special schools or therapy or treatment, and our family looks at us like we got lobsters crawling out of our ears, you know. And I'm here to tell you that I'm more inclined to believe, what is it from Alice in Wonderland, where we're all bonkers, and the father replies, all the best people are. You know, I love you guys very much. Peace that surpasses all understanding, and I hope on some level you found this validating for your experiences, or you found some resonance. And I'm out. I'm out. Have a wonderful day. Peace.